Mexico might just become an unpopulated country. Yes, you heard that right. One of the most popular countries in the world is actually 82% empty and has one of the most uneven population distributions in the world. So why is Mexico 82% empty? What has caused this problem? Well, subscribe to our channel and like the video, as well as stay tuned to the end to find out all the shocking facts. Let us start by understanding the historical context of the early civilizations and settlement patterns. Mexico has had an ancient history of human settlements that dates back thousands of years, with early civilizations such as the Olmecs, Maya, and the Aztecs making their territories on Mexican soil. These sophisticated civilizations largely settled in areas that were rich in natural resources, as it made survival easier for them. For example, the Central Valley of Mexico was rich with fertile land and a favorable climate where it could not get too hot, and if it did, there was enough shelter and supplies, which led to the rise of huge urban centers such as Teotihuacan and Tenochtitlan. After that came the Spanish colonization. The rule of the Spanish in the early 16th century drastically changed the landscape of all settlers in Mexico. The Spanish started to loot and colonize all the areas where the civilizations used to live, as they were indeed the richest in resources. They marked their dominance in major cities like Mexico City, Puebla, and Veracruz, among many others, in the central and coastal regions of Mexico, leaving a huge chunk of the north and dense jungles of the south underdeveloped. Fun fact, did you know that Mexico City was built on the ruins of the Aztec capital Tenochtitlan? Did you think that this monumental step in Mexican history has affected their present? But let's talk about post-independence land reforms. After fighting for independence over 2 centuries, Mexico finally became free in 1821, and they underwent various land reforms to divert their population from the central regions, but these often failed. The Mexican Revolution from 1910 to 1920 managed to bring about some change, but the demographic patterns from colonial times managed to prevail throughout. Subscribe to our channel if you love tacos. However, speaking of current times, what are the geographic and climate challenges that Mexico is facing? Northern Mexico is dominated by a massive desert region such as the Chihuahuan and the Sonora deserts. The Chihuahuan Desert is the largest Mexican desert, which extends beyond the boundaries of its country and goes into southwestern America as well. These areas often experience extreme temperatures, close to zero water resources, and harsh living conditions, making it next to impossible for humans to settle there. And to tip the other end of the scale, the southeastern parts of Mexico, which include states like Chiapas and certain parts of the Yucatan Peninsula, is covered by dense rainforests, where the temperatures are hot, humid, and diseases such as malaria are highly prevalent, again, making it impossible for humans to settle there. Mexico's landscape also includes steep mountain ranges, such as the Sierra Madre Occidental and the Sierra Madre Oriental, which not only make it difficult for large-scale settlements to occupy the land, but also make transportation a huge challenge, as the mountains act as barriers to infrastructure and development. Imagine having to build a civilization in these steep trenches. Impossible, right? Now, if we talk about the economic and social reasons behind Mexico being deserted, you will know that as Mexico becomes more urbanized, the disparities are starting to increase between urban and rural Mexico. The people living in rural Mexico are often of an orthodox mindset and are living in the past, as compared to the people who live in urban Mexico who have started to follow the mentality and trends of the West. The main reason behind this is the impact of globalization, which has not yet reached all parts of Mexico. So, has globalization not reached rural Mexico because of the orthodox mindset, or is it the mindset orthodox because globalization never went past the few cities in Mexico? It's a good brain teaser to think about. Economic activities in Mexico are heavily restricted to a few major urban cities. Mexico City, Monterrey, and Guadalajara are the major economic hubs due to their infrastructure, markets, and available jobs. The fact that most of the wealth in Mexico is divided among these regions has caused a huge economic disparity in the nation. This is in fact a big thing to think about. How often have you heard anyone speak on any other cities other than these ones when they visit Mexico? What has made the countryside even more deserted are the people who live there, but decided to migrate to the cities in order to find themselves a stable job to support their families. This trend has caused a highly irregular population distribution, with some cities facing the problem of overcrowding, while others remain nearly deserted. Here's another fact. Nearly 78% of Mexico's population live in major cities, which covers not more than 20% of the surface area of Mexico. The economic landscape of Mexico is marked by significant differences between regions. The central and northerly parts of the country, where big cities are located, attract the moneymakers, as compared to the southern and rural districts, which move very slowly, leading to financial disparities. That is the reason why cities are all about the hustle and parties, while the countryside is where people live a peaceful life. Moving on to agricultural stability. Central Mexico, particularly the Mexican Plateau, is blessed with fertile soil and a climate that is suitable for agriculture. This region has encouraged farming for centuries now, as compared to other regions where agriculture is completely unsuitable due to the rainforests and vast deserts. The Central Mexican Plateau has been supporting the lives of many farmers and has been a major source of revenue to the country in times of recession. To protect these lands, Mexico has set aside a huge chunk of its soil to be preserved under their Conservation Act, and has set aside other pieces of land to be used for development and infrastructure. Places like their national parks and reserves are protected by government policies and cannot be destroyed by law. However, many multinationals believe that they can use certain pieces of land for economic benefits of the country by making them infrastructurally developed. What do you think of this? Let us know in the comments below. However, there are many areas in Mexico which do not support agriculture, mainly in the north and the south, and the people in these areas do face many challenges. The scarcity of water in the north and the dense conditions in the south have made the irrigation really difficult. These agricultural problems and limitations have forced people out of their homes and to move to other places, whether it be urban areas or rural areas with fertile soil. One of the major factors that have affected the habitation in Mexico is the impact of climate change, which is expected to increase the problems that people are facing in the regions of Mexico with extreme temperatures. The inhabitable places are now in a far worse situation than they were in, and it is only expected to go downhill as climate change keeps becoming a bigger problem. Climate change is expected to cause mass droughts in certain regions of Mexico if action is not taken against it immediately. So here's the current situation and future prospects. As Mexico continues to develop, it is only expected to get more and more urbanized as foreign companies and local markets are continuing to thrive. However, this can cause the problems of overcrowding and, in extreme cases, even a lack of jobs for their people. To make sure that the rich do not keep getting richer and leave the poor behind, the Mexican government has taken several initiatives to promote development in rural areas and to boost the country's economy from all fronts. This will not only give the rural people a better chance to enhance their lifestyle, but also help become self-sufficient without having to move to the big cities and widen the population gap between urban and rural Mexico. Interestingly, the rural areas of Mexico can be perfect fits for the growth of renewable energy. The land, weather, and availability are all in support of growth of renewable plants for solar and wind energy and can be a major point in capitalizing for big companies. The local population can even gain employment from these opportunities. The good thing is that Mexico has already started investing in renewable energy projects to meet the growing energy demands and reduce its carbon emissions. The empty deserts serve as a prime location for the growth of such projects. Moving on, to help bridge this gap in population, Mexico can truly capitalize by promoting travel and tourism in lesser visited areas. The diverse landscape may not be favorable for living, but they can certainly be great tourist attraction points. By promoting ecotourism and sustainable travel, the country can provide employment while showing the world that Mexico is more than just the main cities. Now that you know the amazing things Mexico has to offer, would you consider visiting the roads less taken during your next trip to Mexico? Credit must be given where it is due. Mexico has certainly been trying to shorten the rift between urban and rural Mexico, but they have not managed to find much success in this quest. Sustainable projects are happening at a much slower rate than usual, and people still continuing to migrate to big cities as they believe life will be much easier over there, even though in many cases it is not. So can Mexico ever find a way out of this mess? Only time will tell. Meanwhile, why don't you tell us what you think of this situation in the comments below? And watch this video where most of you will get the geography facts wrong.